The members present. I declare the motion as amended passed. Members' motion with no legislative effect. Mr. Edward Lau will move a motion on reviewing the works approval process and aligning construction standards and leveraging innovative technologies to reduce construction costs and time. 3 members will speak, move amendments, and then the Council will proceed to a joint debate on the motion and the amendment. Later, I will first call upon Mr. Edward Lau to speak and move the motion, and then I will call upon Dr. LO Wai-kwok, Mr. Kingsley Wong, and Mr. Louis Loong to speak, but they may not move their amendments at this stage. The joint debate now begins. Members who wish to speak, please press the request to speak button. I now call upon Mr. Edward Lau to speak and move the motion. Mr. Edward Lau.
Thank you, President. In the coming 10 years, Hong Kong will see a peak in the number of construction works. There will be 2 major projects, including Northern Metropolis and Kau Chau Artificial Islands. There will be also works in relation to transport infrastructure. Currently, the government spent about $120 billion on construction works. There are private sector and public sector works. In the coming 10 years, the peak will be about $320 billion in terms of construction cost. There is concern that construction works cost a lot of time and they're expensive and they may deter the development of the city. How expensive were the works? Let's look at a public rental housing unit cost. 10 years ago, it was about $100,000. In 2021, it was about $610,000, but today it's about $920,000. In 10 years' time, the construction cost was up double. According to Arcadis 2023 International Construction Cost Index, the construction cost of Hong Kong was ranked the top and 8th around the world. This is way higher compared to Japan and Singapore. Compared to Singapore, the construction cost in Hong Kong is about 3 to 5 times of that of Singapore. If we look at the gross floor area for each square foot of a unit is about $47,000. In Singapore, to build a residential unit is about $36,000 per square foot, and the cost is 4 to 5 times higher than that in Shenzhen. In Shenzhen, for each square meter is about $10,000. We're seeing a drop of home prices and we're seeing a significant increase in construction cost. As mentioned, each square foot is about $6,000 in Hong Kong, and this is way higher compared to the land prices in the new territories. The cost for a developer for each square foot is about $10,000. The government said it wants to boost the supply of housing and that it is going to deploy cooling measures. With the cost, members of the public won't be able to afford the prices because the construction cost is too high. Apart from lifting cooling measures, the government should also tackle the high construction cost to mitigate the unaffordability of housing. Does that mean we should build less housing? I think development is crucial to Hong Kong. With high construction cost, we should look at the root of the problem and study why the construction cost is so high and try to lower it. I moved this motion today not just because I want to raise problem with the construction sector. In fact, construction cost is so high and it's been affecting the development of Hong Kong. It's causing a pressure on public coffers and also it's affecting the competitiveness of Hong Kong. We had a discussion about the revival of tourism industry, and all these have to do with high construction costs. With high construction costs, developers and homeowners will have to raise the rent because they have to get a reasonable return, and this indirectly pushes up the cost of different sectors, including catering industry. High construction cost has to do with the development of Hong Kong. I've been paying attention to the development of the city. I think we have to do something about streamlining the development procedure. I am glad that the Development Bureau has taken on board some of our suggestions, and last year there were amendments to legislations, and the bill took effect starting from last September, and the amendment of legislation was able to reduce the development time by half. Apart from deploying manpower effectively, the government should also review the development procedure, align construction standards, and do more in terms of coordination, as well as leverage innovative technologies to reduce construction cost and time. We improved procedures in land planning as well as land resumption. Now, in the next stage, we have to work on construction cost. I have proposed 6 recommendations in my motion. I hope I get the support of members as well as the administration. The Buildings Ordinance was established in 1956. It's been running for 70 years. Over the years, there have been new requests in terms of compliance. Now with new guidelines, well, we have about 300 sets of such guidelines. I think the government should comprehensively review the Buildings Ordinance and eliminate any out-of-date provisions. It should also review construction standard to ensure that the Buildings Ordinance keeps abreast with the time. We have a lot of good legislations. However, at the same time, we should review our legislations and systems in place. One construction project may take up to 10 years or above to complete. Last year at Q3, HKIA did a survey. It was found that an architect spent 40% of the time to deal with the government in relation to procedural matters, and only 1/4 of the time was spent on construction. If the government can streamline the procedure, 1/3 of the time could be saved, and it can release over 10% of architectural firms and unleash manpower. Cumbersome procedures will cause pressure on manpower. I think the government therefore should streamline approval procedures and align construction standards. At the same time, the government should make better use of BIM, Buildings Information Modeling, and new technologies like these to save the time on approving construction works. For large-scale or mega projects, the government should set up dedicated task forces. For instance, in the airport core project, there was a coordination group set up to coordinate airport-related works for Changi route as well as reclamation projects. 7 years were spent on completing these projects only. So we should learn from this model. Also, the government should expand the role of the Development Projects Facilitation Office to ensure that the office can play a better coordinator role. Now that we have more construction works, the government may find it challenging to look for manpower. The government should allow authorized professionals to conduct certification. For different types of applications, the government should set time limits or performance pledges so that there won't be any delays because of approval procedures. In terms of materials and technologies, well, if the light public housing projects deployed MIC and 50 to 60% of construction time was saved. For the cross-bay link, new technologies were also deployed, and a few $100 million were saved because of the use of technologies. The government should use new materials and new technologies to further lower the construction cost. In terms of using these new materials and technologies, Public Works Department should take the lead to deploy these technologies. I hope we can all work together to save cost and time. Thank you.
And I propose the question to you that the Honorable LAU Kwok-fan's motion be passed. Dr. LO Wai-kwok. President, I'm thankful to Mr. LAU Kwok-fan for moving his original motion. Including myself, 3 members have moved amendments to the proposals. Now, the Chief Executive has so long stressed that we are going to implement the strategy of bringing forward infrastructure construction, increasing development capacity. Now, we have the Northern Metropolis as well as the county's artificial islands in the pipeline. We have to deliver our housing targets, etc. Now, for the Northern Metropolis highway feasibility study, documents were submitted to the transport panel. It's expected that it's going to take more than $1 billion, lasting more than 3 years to complete the study. We're of the view that it's too costly and too lengthy. Yes, it's true. It's correct that we have the service of consultancies. The question is, the government has duplicating requirements and procedures, so we are wasting money and time on investigation, and we have to spend tens of millions of dollars on EIAs. I'm sure we all agree that the government should review the vetting procedures of public works projects and consolidate the construction standards so as to enhance the competitiveness of the sector. We should streamline government procedures, adopt new technology to shorten the construction line time so that we can have public works projects delivered faster, quicker, and also better. I've urged the administration to remove the red tape, to enhance our buildings ordinance, our EIA ordinance, and relevant legislation, and enhance the coordination of government departments, and to promote the deployment of new technology by the sector such as MIC and BIM, and we must also relax the labor importation scheme for the construction sector. Many of our proposals have been given a positive response by the government. My amendment focus on urging the administration to develop e-government services so as to further promote digitalization of the approval process for the construction and engineering sectors. During the pandemic, civil servants worked at home. Many approval processes, including certificate for start of work, occupation permit, etc. E-services were used. However, it was only then that we realized our pace of digitalization was too slow. As a result, many projects suffer slippage. I urge the administration to help the sector to address the difficulties and challenges, and the government responded positively. I'm pleased to see that government departments are now launching e-government services. For instance, for the Buildings Department in 2022 and 2023, it has been launching Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the e-submission of documents, so that government departments can accept plans and documents tendered under the Buildings Ordinance. Phase 3 is expected to be launched in Q2 of 2025. Hopefully, the government can make good use of digital services so that we have more e-government services. There should be a better integration or communication of government departments by means of digitalization so that we can streamline processes and shorten the processing time. On the one hand, we are encouraging e-submission of plans, and yet if approval is done on a physical basis, then that is contradictory. And then we should have more stringent control so that there will not be unreasonable claims. Now, the sector is concerned that it is difficult to define unreasonable claims. Some of the claims may be made due to practical reasons, and they should not be handled in a general manner. I urge members to support my amendment. Mr. Kingsley Wong. Thank you, President. This government has the principle of bringing forward infrastructure construction and increasing development capacity. Now we are at the dawn of a golden era for infrastructure development. We must have new ways to save money and save time. My proposal are we should enhance occupational and industrial safety, and we should improve the vetting and approval mechanisms. First, industrial and occupational safety. Now, this is an important labor right, and workers should use their skills and knowledge to make a living and not use their lives. Unfortunately, 2 days ago in a private development project, a scaffolding collapsed, claiming 2 lives. And there were at least 15 fatal accidents, taking away 26 workers' lives. So in my amendment, I urge the administration to motivate and subsidize the industry to adopt technologies to monitor site safety so as to reduce the occurrence of serious industrial accidents, protect the lives of workers, and prevent suspension of works due to serious accidents which may affect works progress. Deployment technology can be very useful in improving site safety. According to the report of a listed company, on average, using technology can lower the industrial accidents by 1/6. This is because the company has been adopting a technology. They have safety monitoring robots and also AI monitoring system. They attach importance to workers' awareness, occupational safety that has been successful in improving their safety record. This goes to show that if we use technology, we can reduce the number of fatal industrial accidents. The question is whether we have the will to do so. Now, extra costs may be involved. According to the Development Bureau, we have for project costing over $30 million. There must be the deployment of industry, and they can also apply for subsidy from the INT fund. Now, for INT fund for construction technology, you can get over $750,000 in subsidy, but you have to spend money on safe and smart site system, which enhance subsidy for this. Public Works should set an example for other private projects. Now, from time to time, we saw fatal accidents in PW Works projects. For the Hong Kong to Macau Bridge, 11 lives were lost, and for the Regional Express Railway and also the Anderson Road public housing project, they were suspended due to fatal accidents. In 2022, KPIs were proposed to lower the number of fatal accident rate to 26% of 2026. We must have KPIs in order to tackle the problem. There should be higher standards set for public works project to demonstrate the government's commitment to protect workers' lives. Now, sometimes accidents are caused by demand for speed, and so instead of compressing project duration, I amended to shortening project time and to reduce construction costs on all fronts, and I add enhancing occupational safety. And as for the vetting and approving tenders mechanism, my DAB colleague will elaborate on that. I urge members to support my amendment. Thank you. The Honorable Louis Leung. Thank you, President. The Chief Executive in his last two policy addresses stressed that we must address the housing problem in four directions by enhancing quantity, speed, efficiency, and quality. Labor and material costs are high. As a result, our construction costs are among the top in the world. So I truly support the motion we have today. I support Dr. LO Wai-kwok's proposal to urge the administration to develop digitalization in its approval process, and we should have target completion days. We should have e-platforms to allow applicants to track real-time the progress of their applications, and there should also be specific timelines for better time management so that approval can be more efficient. The government should also use code of practices so that there can be standardized standards or standardized rules for approving the various applications to shorten the processing time. And we should enhance the road to be adopted by professionals so that they can help to approve plans as well. As for the Development Projects Facilitation Office, it is well intended, but to make it more effective, it should be headed by the Secretary for Development. It should review the progress from time to time, and it should take the initiative to address bottlenecks in the approval process. The Secretary for Development in her blog said that we need talents while protecting the rice bowls of labor workers. We should allow an appropriate number of imported laborers because we have been short of labor for a long time. The labor crunch will drive up construction costs and lengthen the construction time, and is also a big hazard when it comes to site safety. So I urge the administration to streamline the labor importation scheme for the construction sector and to consider removing unnecessary conditions so that public and private sectors can have a fair share of imported labor. Now, currently, the applications are on a item or project basis. As a result, some workers may be idle. I suggest that the mechanism should be turned to contractor base to save the processing time or application time of contractors, and then they can also have flexibility in deploying labor to work in their various projects, and there should be sufficient training for imported labor to help them get familiarized with our local situation. Yes, construction and labor costs are high, but time is even dearer. There are workers that are idle. A month of slippage can cost a lot, and that would be sufficient to pay the wage bill of workers, and sometimes a delay in giving approving occupation permit and also the permit for utilities should also be speeded up so that flats can be available for sale or for rental earlier. I urge that we help the sector to enhance their efficiency and manpower for construction. Thank you.
Secretary for Development. President, I thank Mr. Edward Lau for his motion and also the amendments moved by Dr. LO Wai-kwok, Mr. Kingsley Wong, and Mr. Louis Long. This motion lets us have a discussion on project cost control and also ways to streamline procedures. First, let me address the point raised in Mr. Lau's motion, that is Hong Kong ranks 8th in the world according to the Arcadis 2023 International Construction Cost Index. The Development Bureau pays attention to building costs. Project cost management has been a priority for our Bureau. Between 2016 and 2020, Hong Kong ranked among the top 3 in that international construction cost context index. Over the past few years, the Development Bureau launched a number of strategic measures and worked with the sector and achieved results. That's why our ranking actually moved down in that construction cost index. Of course, we will keep working on this matter. Now, on project performance, public works projects are doing well. Let me share some figures. In 2013 to 14, all the way to 2023, that's 10 years, the Finance Committee approved 550 Category A projects, total funding $970 billion. Just 3% of the projects, that is 16 such projects, required additional funding from the Finance Committee. Total funding involved, that's just 6%, and that's $57 billion. Let's look at the point when we close out the account. Over the past 10 legislative years, 534 Category A projects settled their final account. The original approved project estimates were $172 billion. Upon account closing out, the number was down, roughly $153 billion. This means some projects required further funding from the Finance Committee, but the surplus from other projects was enough to cover the further funding required, and we actually had a balance of $19 billion. This means the total project costs looked at as a whole, including the additional funding, are only at 90% of the original approved project estimate. This shows the government can manage project performance and project cost. Hong Kong's public works projects are well regarded in the global community. Oxford University's Professor Bent Fluevberg is an authority on project cost management. Professor Fluevberg compared our performance with places like Canada, Denmark, the Netherlands, Sweden, and the UK. The comparison shows Hong Kong has mechanisms and project control measures, and we are doing better than other places. Cost overruns in public works projects are less likely in Hong Kong than in other places. Now, on specific cost management measures, in 2016, in June that year, the Development Bureau set up the Project Cost Management Office. In 2019, this office was upgraded and became the Project Strategy and Governance Office. The office launched different measures to step up project management and improve the performance of infrastructure projects. The office started working from the inception of a project. The office keeps an eye on the project and follows up and reviews the project regularly, so that come detailed design and funding, the office keeps track of the project throughout its life cycle. Since its establishment, the office looked at 550 projects amounting to $1.6 trillion. The office sticks to a fitness for purpose and no frills approach and launches strategic measures. And that helped achieve savings of $190 billion. Most such projects have started. Some have reached the latter stages of construction. We are confident that these projects will not see serious cost overruns and delays. On institutions, in 2018, the government set up a steering group on streamlining development control. The steering group looked at procedures and sorted out requirements. This steering group involves the construction sector. It talks to the sector specifically. Under the Land and Development Advisory Group, there is a dedicated committee as a formal channel for the sector to talk to the government about streamlining administrative procedure. The Development Bureau and other departments also meet with different trade groups. Since the steering group was formed, we launched a number of streamlining measures to streamline administrative approval. In the recent years, over the past 2 years in particular, we launched 6 measures covering general building plans approval, and also the preservation and removal of trees in development projects, and also conditions to planning permissions, and also the title checks before the disbursement of compensation for land resumption, GFA concession for car parks, and also making changes to approve development projects. On the preservation and the removal of trees, we brought in the professionals' self-certification mechanism. This arrangement has been well received by the sector. Towards the end of 2020, the Development Bureau set up the Development Projects Facilitation Office. This office takes a project-based approach to speed up the approval for private development. The functions of this office was expanded to cover large-scale commercial projects and also brownfield site operators affected by the government's land resumption. The office provides one-stop advisory services. President, I look forward to listening to members' speeches in the debate, and I will offer a reply later. Thank you.
Mr. Chen Xiuhong. President, I speak in support of Mr. Edward Lau's motion as well as the amendments made by other members. In the coming 10 years, there will be lots of large-scale infrastructure projects in Hong Kong, including Northern Metropolis, Khao Yai Chau Artificial Islands, and so on. It is expected that the construction expenditure forecast will range from 240 billion to 375 billion per annum. The Development Bureau in 2019 upgraded the Project Cost Management Office to Project Strategy and Governance Office to control construction procedure. And the office, as well as the government departments, worked to streamline the approval procedure with a number of mega projects to be completed. Well, the projects will span about 20 years. I wonder if the government has enough resources to approve and vet all these construction projects. With $200 billion of fiscal deficit and with such a huge amount of construction projects in the pipeline, I wonder if the government can handle them. Lots of government departments are involved in these construction projects, and I suggest the government set up a cross-departmental project to examine construction costs as well as estimates, as well as tendering process, cost on manpower and materials to save cost and avoid delays. To ensure that public money is well spent, I also suggest that government set up a centralized platform for procurement. In response to the construction projects in the pipeline, there should be a centralized platform to procure materials to lower the costs on materials. This will save construction costs and ensure that the construction projects will be completed as scheduled. The original motion suggests that the buildings ordinance should be reviewed and that works approval process should be streamlined. I agree with these suggestions. Last year, in June and July, the Legislative Council approved the amendment of the Development, Town Planning, Lands and Works, miscellaneous amendments and other bills to help streamline development procedures. The government took the initiative to introduce these bills. The work should be commended. However, the government lacks creativity, and there are too many administrative procedures. And we're seeing more and more of these administrative procedures. The government should streamline internal administrative procedures to ensure that we can enhance quantity, quality, and speed and efficiency to meet the housing target. I also agree the original motion that the government should set time limits or performance pledges. If the applications are rejected, the government should give a reason and provide feasible solutions so that applicants can make improvement and so that the applications can be approved as soon as possible. Over the years, we need professionals to hold a professional certification. The government should not supersede the role of these professionals. However, these procedures oftentimes delay the process. I agree with the original motion that authorized, recognized professionals should be allowed to conduct professional certification, and the government just have to ensure that the system is not abused. With manpower shortage and aging working population, we're seeing an increase in cost. There will be a large amount of construction projects. The government has to ensure that it has the capacity to handle all these projection costs. MIC as well as the MIMAP technologies, etc., should be adopted as solutions. Thank you. Mr. Dennis Leung. I thank Mr. Edward Lau for the motion so that we can have a discussion on high construction cost and long construction time. And this is against the target of the government to enhance quality, quantity, speed, and efficiency. Subcontractors, construction workers, members of the public, as well as the government lose because of the high construction cost. And the government has failed to enhance the sense of well-being of the public. The topic today is that the government should align construction standards, save construction costs and time. If the government does not contain construction costs and that the government fails to change its mentality and just play by the book, then it would fail to achieve the target set by the chief executive. I agree with the amendment that e-government services should be facilitated. This will further streamline the works approval process. In the amendment, it is suggested that there should be a streamlined tendering approval process. The government should also promote site safety to avoid serious industrial accidents. This will avoid construction project delays because of accidents. The government has to change the attitude of its staff in terms of approving construction projects. It should adopt a humanized approach and liaise directly with the relevant parties. It should comprehensively make use of innovative technologies as well as relevant smart tools to manage construction sites. This will ensure site safety as well as protect the lives of our workers, and this will also expedite works process. For instance, in 1983, a residential development project was originally scheduled to take 24 months. However, only a much shorter time was spent to finish a residential project that was 33 to 45 story high. The government should think out of the box. Mr. Louis Leung, in his amendment, suggested that there should be a relaxation of the labor importation scheme. I object to that proposal. This is because it involves local education work and use of local manpower. We should allow students to attend different training and different projects, and that this has to do with a better planning of our education system. And there should be policy to improve our VPAT education, to train up local workers to take part in construction works. We see exploitation of frontline workers, and this is a major problem that we have to tackle. We need the industry to confront the issue as soon as possible. Apart from addressing outsourcing problem, the government should regulate subcontractors to raise the remuneration package of construction workers. Principal contractors as well as subcontractors should take up more responsibilities. This will attract young people to join the construction industry, and then we can work together to contribute to the development of Hong Kong. The construction sector and the government should work together. We have a common goal, and we want the city to thrive. President, I so submit. Mr. Chen Kin-po. Thank you, President. For the development of Hong Kong's economy as well as to integrate into the national development, there will be major development projects of the Northern Metropolis and the Khao Yai Chau artificial islands. However, construction costs are very high. The huge number of construction projects we have are going to push up construction costs, and this is not favorable to the development of the city. The government should learn from the experience of the third runway project, and we should raise funds based on the model used in that project. Well, the funds is coming from the society. The government should work to control construction costs. I thank Mr. Edward Lau for the motion so that we can have a discussion today here. Hong Kong is known for its high construction costs. There are surveys that construction costs in Hong Kong is ranked first in Asia and 8th globally. Materials are costly, manpower is expensive compared to Singapore. Their construction cost is way lower compared to that in Hong Kong. For instance, in 2019, the airport in Singapore was completed, and the construction cost was about $10 billion. This is not just about materials, but it involves construction procedures as well as construction delays. The government should tackle all these problems. According to HKIA's survey, there are different issues with the approval and vetting process of construction projects in Hong Kong. Government departments often work in silos, causing construction projects delay. In downstream sector, the government should set a standard and concentrate on processing a certain number of construction projects. In recent years, our country has been pushing for a reform of approval and vetting process of construction projects. There should be standardized data management, and by 2021, construction vetting and approval procedure time was halved. The national model may not be applicable to Hong Kong. However, we should learn from that model. Manpower is also an issue. According to Construction Industry Council, it is expected that by 2027, engineers will be 6,500 short. This is unfavorable to construction projects. Currently, the Development Bureau has introduced a new labor importation scheme for construction industry. We have 12,000 quotas. It is hoped that there can be strengthened training for workers for the sector. As we're seeing the completion of a number of construction projects will need more manpower, the government will have to come up with contingency plan. We are seeing advanced technologies In recent years, the government should think of introducing innovative construction technologies to reduce the use of manpower and to avoid project delays. Last year, the Legislative Council approved the development, town planning, lands and works miscellaneous amendments, and the time to turn sites into spade-ready sites was reduced from 13 months to 7 months, from 13 years to 7 years. The government should enhance efficiency continuously to ensure the development of Hong Kong. Thank you.
Ms. Chen Yutping. Thank you, President. I support the motion on reviewing the works approval process and aligning construction standards and leveraging innovative technology to reduce construction costs and time. As the government announced in the Northern Metropolis Action Agenda and the Hong Kong Major Transport Infrastructure Blueprint, Hong Kong will see a string of infrastructure projects. The Northern Metropolis Highway project draw media attention. It's a 23-kilometer long highway. This will take 38 months to complete, and that's just a study, and it will cost $1.1 billion. Members would like to see a lower price tag. President Xi Jinping stressed the use of technology and getting talent and the use of innovation. We need all that to drive our community forward. The government needs to move with the time, so let's make use of new technologies, the new building methods to respond to people's calls, so that we can build faster and make it cheaper in the Northern Metropolis development. The government has been aggressively adopting modular integrated construction. The electrical complex works and also the light public housing works that just started. Adopt MIC that allows us to build faster. There's another issue. We may see more than $300 billion in infrastructure project costs. So we need to lower costs and build faster so that we can quickly develop the Northern Metropolis into a new growth engine for the economy. So here are my thoughts. First, we need a robust mechanism to monitor project performance and costs. There's an amendment on improving the system to monitor tenders and design. So we need to plan ahead so that we can avoid unreasonable extra costs and delays. But in the middle and the later parts of a project, there should be a mechanism to monitor and hold people accountable. A member called for a department in a committee on project cost and control. The point is to get the government to monitor projects, and we need to strike a balance between project performance and cost. Procurement usually happens through the government logistics department. So that when the police or the water plants, treatments, and government stationery, there is centralized procurement. There are modern warehouses and delivery teams, but the story is different when it comes to construction. The works departments do their own procurement, so there is room for improvement. The Development Bureau and the Financial Secretary should consider having a centralized platform for procurement for works projects, so that we don't have the decentralized way to procure works. Second, we need a dedicated ordinance on development. The motion mentions amending the buildings ordinance to remove red tape for projects in the Northern Metropolis, and also a dedicated ordinance to let the airport authority to play a bigger role. So for the Northern Metropolis, let's consider having a dedicated ordinance to foster the development of the Northern Metropolis. so that we can reduce or remove restrictions so that we can achieve greater efficiency and lower costs. And then we can fix the issues. I so submit. Mr. Brave Chen. Thank you, President. We agree with Mr. Edward Lau on his points raised in the motion on reviewing works approval process, aligning construction standards, leveraging technologies, and reducing costs. So we need it faster, cheaper, better. This is in line with Mr. John Lee's idea of boosting speed and efficiency. We used to be known for our speed in getting work done, but things got more complicated over time. I'm with the CPPCC and NPC. There I meet people from the construction sector. In Hong Kong, when we want to build something, our construction costs are 6 times of what you see in the mainland or overseas. We also take longer to build buildings. So this means we are falling behind in our speed. At the construction site, there is supervisory staff, but we end up having more supervisors than workers. This is also featured in news reports. More supervisors than workers plus idlers. And this is the last thing we want to see. As we go from stability to prosperity, let's look for ways to speed work up. I know the chief executive and his officials deserve commendation because they have boosted speed. But we need not just improvement, but we need evolution. The people call China an infrastructure powerhouse. It takes just a few months to get reclamation done, and that's the kind of speed we should strive for. So let's look for ways to remove red tape. And we need transformation, not just improvement. Time waits for no one. We need to show people increased speed. And that will be in line with public expectations. Just like the lift in the electrical complex. I wasn't comfortable about taking the lift because it took too long to wait for the lift. And this is where things need to be improved. So let's speed things up. President Xi Jinping visited Hong Kong and he set out his expectations, creating stronger impetus for growth. To do that, we need speed. High-speed rail links are everywhere. You need a train traveling at more than 300 kilometers an hour to qualify as high-speed rail. So this may put pressure on the secretary. I know she has done much. We commend her for her work. But she needs to lead all her colleagues from all departments, including contracted work. We need to speed things up. People want to see quick results. There are people waiting for housing. They're anxious for housing. We need to make a greater effort to fix different problems. Of course, the secretary and her team are the experts, but we're setting out the direction they should be working towards. And Mr. Johnny also proposed a result-oriented approach. So gatekeepers and regulators need to think about this. Let's not make things difficult for people and consider that's a job done. We need to think about how to get work done quickly. Gatekeepers shouldn't just turn people down. Instead, let's tell applicants what works, how to make things work, and how we can make things truly work. If we can make that happen, then our works project can truly achieve greater speed and better quality at lower cost. So here are my thoughts. and also give due recognition to the secretaries and her team's work. I commend their work. If they can speed up the work, then Hong Kong can move faster. Mr. Jeffrey Lam. President, our country has entered a new stage of development. We need to deliver what our country needs with what we are good at. We need to be a more proactive contributor and participant. Hong Kong will see many infrastructure projects. There will be a lot going on, but many sectors are plagued by staff shortage. The staff shortage in the construction sector is getting worse. That means delays, higher costs. To get ready for future projects and the many infrastructure projects in particular, different sectors need to put their heads together and come up with good ideas. Surveys every year say Hong Kong has the highest construction costs in Asia. It takes long and costs too much to build in Hong Kong, and that will hurt our long-term competitive edge. I support streamlining requirements for land development. We should streamline administrative approval requirements. Given the construction sector's staff shortage and high construction costs and low falling productivity, the government should make greater use of technology in construction. Last year, electrical members went on a visit to the GBA mainland cities. We visited a robotics firm. We saw the latest robotic use in construction in the mainland. The mainland is making rapid progress in the use of robotics and building things. Robots could help us with a lot of tasks. Polishing, for example, working on concrete and putting up the finishes. This means many tasks can be performed by robots. This helps slash costs and us to build faster. In our report on the visit, we proposed introducing more smart solutions and robots in construction, so that when high-risk works involving the external wall, robots can be used, and that can help reduce industrial accidents. This can save lives and also ease the staff shortage in the construction sector. Worker safety matters because young people may or may not want to join the sector. Now, we have more than 500,000 construction workers, but many of them are over the age of 60. The construction sector offers good pay, but there are serious accidents happening at construction sites. When young people see that, they see the sector as a dangerous career path. To sustain the sector's development, we need new blood. The government needs to keep working to enhance site safety and improve the sector's image. We need to keep making progress. The mainland and other places are advancing by leaps and bounds. So the lesson is, even slow progress is a regression. This means we need to move faster with Construction 2.0. We need to adopt greater technologies, and we need an integrated digital platform. Let's turn the construction sector into a professional sector and get more young people to join the sector. Now we can have more professional posts in the construction sector. For young engineers and assistant engineers, let's give them more training and funding to help them move up the career ladder. We also need to nurture local talent for the construction sector. But that cannot fix the gap in the short term. So the government needs to review and improve the existing labor import scheme and expand the construction sector's labor import scheme in an appropriate way. Let's cover more private development projects. Let's step up overseas promotion so the overseas workers are aware of how to apply for the scheme. We are moving from stability to prosperity. The government needs to take a multi-pronged approach, act decisively. There's a staff shortage. We should not let us miss the opportunities to pick up development and miss the golden eras. I so submit.
Mr. Duncan Chiu, Thank you, President. I speak in support of the original motion moved by Mr. LAU Kwok-fan and the 3 amendments. Our construction sector has faced challenges and difficulties, including high industrial accident rate and labor shortage, etc. A few days ago in Kai Tak, a private housing development site had a collapsed scaffolding, claiming 3 lives. One industrial accident is one too many. Last April, the administration amended legislation to enhance the penalties for occupational and industrial safety offences. But many people are still asking whether the penalties are effective. Hopefully, the administration can review the monitoring mechanism and further enhance industrial safety so that construction workers can work in a safe environment. That's why I support Ms. Kingsley Wong's proposal to motivate and subsidize the industry to widely adopt technologies to monitor safety to improve our industrial safety record. We have a few large infrastructure projects going to start. I think the problems I outlined will worsen. The use of technology can enhance productivity and sustainable development of the industry. However, the construction sector is the least digitalized sector. Digitalization is a way to boost productivity and safety. Using technology can improve the current situation of the sector, so the construction sector must embrace technology. AI is changing different sectors. The construction sector is no exception. By deploying AI and other technologies such as MIC, BIM, drones, and also predictive repair and maintenance scheme, etc. So from design to construction to management, AI and technology can be used in each and every step to drive down construction costs, to expedite the pace of work and enhance safety. To further enhance the digitalization of the construction sector, in 2022 end, the Cyberport and the Construction Association signed a memorandum of understanding to build liaison between the 2 sectors. Smart technologies and solutions have been introduced, and the construction, the CIC has also launched the first ever innovation incubator scheme for construction to promote productivity, safety, and environmental protection. Is a matching fund for construction companies and startups to find the best technology solutions for construction and to test out those new technology at different scenarios. 5D, for instance, can have real-time monitoring and update of site situation. In 2023, the CIC also led many pilot and schemes together with PolyU, MIT, and also other companies. They have signed memorandum of understanding to promote the use of new technologies in construction. I'm pleased to see that CIC has been very proactive in promoting the use of technology and digitalization of the sector. It has also provided many scenarios for use of the solutions so that they can be exchanged and testing out of this technology. I look forward to more cooperation of this kind. As mentioned, the mainland has developed very rapidly in terms of robotics. In the construction sector in particular, many robots can be more efficient and productive than real labor. However, our approval process is too slow, and this has restricted the adoption of technology. I suggest that the government can consider using more national standard facilities and the use of robots so that many construction standards can be used in Hong Kong that can further promote the automation and digitalization of the construction sector. I support the motion and all amendments. Professor William Wong. Thank you, President. I speak to support Mr. Lau Kwok-fan's original motion and all three amendments. I will mainly explore the use of INT to lower construction costs and save time. Yesterday, the CIC had its anniversary reception for 2024. Many members of the sector, including the secretary, were there. At the start of the reception, there was a review of our development, and a lot of the speech was devoted to the use of technology. The secretary, as one of the officiating guests, mentioned how the government has been using technology that is commendable. When it comes to BEAM, and also MIC, we understand that in 2017 policy address, the government decided to use BEAM, and year-on-year circulars of the Secretary of the Development Bureau has been followed up on that. Starting from 2018, for government projects costing over $30 million, BEAM must be used, and the industry supports that. BEAM is just the ABCs of digitalization. How we further BEAM and digital information to assess projects to save time and cost needs further exploration. While CIC advocates the use of technology, it has published this book on global technology being deployed. The future trend is digital twins, the use of digital twins. So after digitalization, we want to simulate the design and operation of a building. There is a digital simulation model, and we can use the system to understand the operation of the building and to identify problems ahead. This is already happening. We've discussed with CIC, which is all for this model. How can this model save costs? Now, in projects, we like to talk about reusability. If we have models of design and also prototypes, perhaps some of the parts can be reused to save steps that have been done before already. So this is one of the merits of the system. And CIC has mentioned time and again that it supports this technology. Hopefully, the government can place more emphasis on new technologies such as digital twins, while promoting the use of technology. We have to understand that we need manpower to operate the new technology. Apart from the Development Bureau, the whole government should engage in training and nurturing of new talents. With these remarks, I support the motion and the amendments. Dr. An Menu, Mr. Deputy, to enhance the quality, efficiency, and speed and quantity of projects, we have to use new technology, and we need manpower resources as well. The construction sector has manpower shortage. We are going to see large infrastructure projects such as the artificial islands reclamation, the Northern Metropolis, and public-private sector participation schemes. starting very soon. If we still have a manpower crunch, the administration must explore how we can use imported labor to ensure sufficient manpower supply for the sector. The construction sector is infamous for being dangerous and very involving a lot of hard work. While the situation has improved, there is more training, and pay is quite good too. But many young people don't want to join the sector. According to a projection report by CAC, in the coming 10 years, we will have more than $300 billion worth of projects in the coming 10 years annually. And yet, from the very top to the bottom, we are short of manpower. In 2023, we were 5 to 15% short for frontline workers. It will rise to 20% in the coming few years. So the sector is most concerned about the manpower crunch as new infrastructure projects are due to start. We have a bigger succession gap and manpower shortage in the sector. If this goes on, this will drive up construction costs, and projects will be more costly as a result. We have seen major delays in projects that will take toll on our productivity and economic development. To address this problem, the administration launched the labor importation scheme for the construction sector. So far, 6,300 odd workers have been approved, and that is only half of the quota allocated. This is far from desirable. According to the sector, they face various constraints in importing labor. First, there must be licenses or permits for various works in construction. Most imported labor need extra in-service training in order to be eligible. DAB suggests that the administration set up cross-boundary training bases with the approval or recognition of their qualifications. For instance, we can provide training programs for semi-skilled and skilled workers so that they can be trained there and their qualifications can be recognized in Hong Kong, and then they can come to Hong Kong and they already obtain the necessary qualifications before they come to Hong Kong. That can save time in training when they have arrived in Hong Kong. Secondly, the eligibility of the scheme will just be for public projects costing less than $1 billion. Usually, private projects are not eligible. We suggest that the administration shorten the processing time and lower the threshold and allow more projects to import labor to relieve the manpower shortage. Thirdly, as we all know, the epidemic isolation facilities are now converted to hostels for imported labor, but the lodging facilities will be saturated very soon. I suggest we allow imported labor to return to their mainland places for the night and come back to work daytime. Now, we must address the manpower shortage problem. We should not rule out further labor importation as an option. I urge the administration to do this properly. With these remarks, I support the motion.
Mr. Tony Che, President. In terms of streamlining approval process, well, back in 10 years ago, when I first joined the Legislative Council, there was piling issues with public rental housing projects. A lot of mega projects saw cost overrun and delays. There were also a collusion between the government and private developers. So therefore, we saw restrictions, and the restrictions resulted in high construction cost and long construction time, and this stifled the development process of Hong Kong. I suggested streamlining approval procedures, and I was one of the minority that pushed for that, and now it has become the mainstream view. Last year, the Legislative Council approved the amendment bill, and a lot of the development procedures have been streamlined. The Development Bureau, since the last term government, under the leadership, Secretary, pushed for streamlined development procedures, and it has yielded results. However, approval and vetting work is not only the responsibility of the Development Bureau. Security Bureau, Fire Services Department, Housing Department are also involved. So the relevant procedures should also be streamlined in order to achieve the best result. Mr. Edward Lau made 6 recommendations in his original motion. This includes amending the Buildings Ordinance, streamlining works approval process, aligning construction standards, setting up dedicated department, and expanding the coordinating function of the Development Projects Facilitation Office, as well as having recognized professionals to conduct professional certification. Also, he suggested setting time limits or performance pledges, as well as introducing innovative construction technologies, and so on. I give my support to all these suggestions. As I have mentioned before, apart from streamlining procedures, aligning construction status, as well as adopting innovative technologies, I think there should be a change of mentality and the way of work of the government. The government should implement what the President Xi suggested, that we should have better governance with highly efficient government procedures. 2 days ago, there was an industrial accident, and that took the life of a few workers. Last year, the Legislative Council approved legislative amendments and increased the penalty for occupational safety and health related offenses. However, we're still seeing incidents, and this shows that raising the penalty is not the best way to prevent accidents. Mr. Kingsley suggested using innovative technologies to prevent industrial accidents. I give my support to that. However, in recent years, members of the public and some of our colleagues focused on enhancing speed, and they have been asking the government to compress the construction procedure, and this also gives pressure to contractors to enhance speed, and this may be one of the reasons that we saw industrial accidents. Apart from short construction time, and this would increase the risk of not only accidents but also risk of high construction costs. That's why I give my support to the amendment made by Mr. Louis Long, that is to relax the labor importation scheme for the construction sector, including works of private sector. However, at the same time, we have to ensure that the imported labor have enough knowledge about the local construction sector. I give my support to the original motion. Thank you. Deputy President, I thank Mr. Edward Lau for the motion as well as the 3 members for the amendments. High construction costs has been highly criticized by the public compared to neighboring countries. High construction costs and material costs is one of the reasons why we're seeing expensive costs. Apart from materials, design standards is also one of the factors that contribute to the high construction costs. We see long construction procedures not because we have lazy workers. One of the reasons is that we have a very stringent design standard. 10 government departments may sit together and have a meeting for an hour. At the same time, we can also have 10 government departments working together and working in silos. The government has the responsibility to ensure that there is clear division of work among different government departments. There should be checks and balances, and the government should ensure construction safety. This is the expectation of the general public. We ask the government to enhance regulation and its gatekeeping role. Every time there is a problem or accident, there is another layer of regulation and procedure. Lots of people are filling out reports, however, they aren't at the front line. There are many levels of regulation. The government asks the sector to regulate, and to solve the problem, oftentimes the government resorts to hiring more people to fill out forms. Every additional layer of regulation means more time will have to be spent on the procedure. A truly effective system is that there should be clear reward and penalty. Any professional parties involved in the construction procedure should be held accountable. Anyone who signs on a document should ensure that the relevant standards are complied with. What the administration has to do is to ensure that the legislation applies to all parties involved. It should also ensure that the standards applied by each government department aligns with each other. We can make use of electronic system to do that, to reduce human error. You may use, in other countries, they can use wood to build an infrastructure. So it's not about how solid the materials you use. It's about how you can enhance the procedure. The government has been promoting MIC construction method. You can save a lot of construction costs by reducing the floor to ceiling height, for instance. To enhance speed as well as ensuring quality is not an easy task. I believe the government, however, can be creative. I so submit. Thank you, Deputy President. Mr. Michael Luke. Thank you, Deputy President. I am pleased that Mr. Edward Lau raised this motion about reviewing the works approval process and aligning construction standards and leveraging technologies to reduce construction costs and time. Controlling construction costs is one of the challenges that we've been facing. We have been faced with dilemma. A lot of the construction projects are essential, however, they are all expensive. If we approve them, it may give people the impression that we Legislative Council members keep spending money. We are going from stability to prosperity now. We will see more and more construction projects in the pipeline. Over the past year, $120 billion of capital works have been approved, and this has excluded other public sector projects. We have been talking about enhancing quality, quantity, speed, and efficiency. However, for some time, we do see work done by the Project Strategy and Governance Office. For instance, it has promoted MIC, digital work supervision system, and improving design standards. Also, the government has introduced NEC system, new engineering contract system. In 2016-17, we saw the peak of construction cost, and then it went down for some period. But in recent years, we saw a rebound of construction cost again. So we have to tackle the issue. Mr. Kingsley Wong, in his amendment, mentioned about how to improve contracts. 90% of the government works has adopted the NEC system. However, there is still a very low percentage of projects that adopt the target price contracts. This model allows the government to share out the costs and risks. That means if there is cost overrun, then the contractor will have to pay half of the cost. If the cost is lower than expected, then the money saved by contractor can also be shared with the government. This allows the contractor to have the incentive to control construction costs and enhance efficiency to reduce situations of cost overrun and project delays. This kind of target price contracts should be promoted to all government works. I also hope that the government can comprehensively review the role of consultants in public works. We engage consultants in a lot of the public works, of course. A lot of times, consultants are involved. I am concerned about the consultancy fee in the Tuen Mun bypass project, which cost $1 billion. The design standards is set too high sometimes. Do the infrastructure projects have to have such a high standard of design? For instance, in one of the lifts in the electrical complex, it is going to be upgraded as a smart lift. However, we don't think this kind of smart lift is necessary for the electrical complex. And this kind of situation is common across different public works. Some colleagues mentioned that in our country, we have seen contractors being very experienced with controlling construction costs. I hope local contractors can learn from mainland contractors, and there can be deeper collaboration between local and mainland contractors. Another point about vetting and approval procedures. A lot of times we get just a 10-page document about a public works project, and we lack the details of these projects, but at the same time we're asked to approve funding proposals of these projects. The FTU suggested setting up a study group to study construction efficiency. I hope members can join us. Thank you.
Mr. Frankie Yik. I thank Mr. Edward Lau for moving his motion. I also thank the three members who moved their respective amendments because their amendments enrich our discussion. The panel on transport discussed the advance works for the Northern Metropolis Highway last week. The proposal is to upgrade the project to Category A that covers consultancy fees and also the investigation of the alignment. The price tag is more than $1.1 billion. More than $300 million is for consultancy fees. This study will go on for 38 months. Members agree that the price is too high and the study takes too long. Hong Kong has prided itself on its speed, but that speed is gone. For all infrastructure projects, the cycle will take more than a decade. The longer a project drags on, the costs go up. Consultants are hired time and again to study a project. The time has come for us to look at our approach. Here's an example. In 2014, I suggested a repair complex that deals with waste energy, waste oil, water, etc. 2024 is here. A tender will come out for Yunnan South for car repairs. I put forward the idea 10 years ago, but the repair facility won't be ready until 2027. We need to think about that. At the meeting of the panel on transport last week, I proposed learning from overseas experience. Other places adopt design and build approach. So they have this integrated approach. Get a single company take over the entire project. That company will not spend a decade on a project because that company won't be able to survive. The mainland contractors have their own research institute. They come up with building solutions. They don't split up the project. Of course, local consultants also matter. With collaboration, contractors can keep track of the project to avoid cost overruns and cost blowouts and delays. We put forward proposals. The government has taken measures to streamline measures, but that is not good enough. So Mr. Edward Lau has moved a timely motion. I hope the government can take on board members' speeches today and look afresh at our works procedures, remove the red tape so that we can build faster. And I hope the government can consider my idea about design and build models and consider the mainland contractors. I support the motion and all amendments. Mr. Charles Siu Chong. Figures show in 2023, 47 public works projects were submitted to the Public Works Subcommittee. More than a third costs more than $1 billion. Project costs are rising. Mr. Edward Lau and Dr. LO Wai-kwok put forward ideas on project cost and other matters. Mr. Kingsley Wong's amendment also proposed shortening project time frame and enhancing occupational safety. I agree. 2 days ago, the high-tech construction site saw an accident that claimed 2 lives. This is heartbreaking. Workers' lives should come first. The construction sector rushes. They try to build a story in 4 days. To achieve this impossible speed, people cut corners, and then things go wrong. Accidents happen. Shortening construction time frame should not come at the expense of occupational safety. The government is promoting the use of technology to boost works efficiency. There is funding for the construction sector to put in place a smart and safe site system. Sadly, private developers are reluctant to put in place such systems. Some companies buy the system without putting it to use. Since the smart site system isn't so popular, the government should consider adopting mandatory measures. Safety officers cannot just force the developers to adopt the systems. The government also proposed reviewing the buildings ordinance, and this includes prosecuting contractors that breach the law. For contractors that breach occupational safety laws, and if we let them carry on with the works, that would be dangerous. I hope the government can complete a review soon. I support the amendments from Dr. LO Wai-kwok and Mr. Kingsley Wong. But then Mr. Louis Long proposed relaxing the labor import schemes. I take exception with that. We already have labor importation schemes. There's one for the construction sector. The quota is as high as 12,000. these imported workers focus on public works projects. But that already frees up local construction workers. Those workers can work on private projects, and that can ease the manpower crunch. About supervisory and management staff, these professional jobs are already on the talent list. There are already channels for employers to hire these people. Immigration Department's figures show that in the first 9 months last year, 3,304 construction professionals came to Hong Kong. For semi-skilled and skilled workers, there is training so that we can have such local workers. Last month, there was a special training program. For workers already with semi-skilled and skilled qualifications, these workers are encouraged to pick up more skills so that we can make better use of our human resources. The construction sector is also adopting more construction technologies. This will lower the demand for manpower and raise efficiency in the long term. Based on these reasons, the construction sector has no cause for pessimism. Bringing in imported workers in a rush will mean local workers don't see a good prospect, so they will be hesitant to join the sector, and that will worsen the labor crunch. I so submit, President. Dr. Wendy Hong. Deputy President, Mr. Edward Lau has moved an important motion. I also support the amendment. LegCo has seen many works projects. We supported many important projects, but those are excessively expensive. I was disturbed by the price tags of those projects. I've done massive research, and I consulted 10 construction experts for today's motion. They gave me great advice, but I want to turn to something else. The most costly problem is that the government is trying to throw money at things and hoping that it will solve everything. We spent $40 to $50 billion to relocate the Sha Tin sewage treatment works to a cavern. That frees up only 28 hectares of land. This means for every hectare of land, it's $1.4 to $1.8 billion for every hectare of land created. The 28 hectares of land will be used for innovation and technology, and also possibly for flats. I looked at LegCo papers on that item. Flats will yield roughly 10,000 units. So that's $4 to $5 million per unit. And that's just land development. We're leaving out the construction cost. We have this 70-30 split, 70 public housing, 30 private flats. So these are exorbitantly costly public housing. We have many costly public housing projects, $2.5 billion to move the surface reservoir in Diamond Hill to a cavern. The land freed up will be 25,000 flats. For land development cost for each unit, $1 million. And we are leaving out the construction cost and the repair and maintenance costs. So these are eye-watering costs. There's a new project, Ching Yi West Public Housing Project, roughly $1 billion to flatten the slope to build 3,400 flats. Each unit, the land development cost is $284,000. Building public housing is among the government's key performance indicators, but we are chasing after the KPI in disregard of the cost. There was a project, $5.5 billion to rebuild the Lai Chi Kok Reception Center. Not many places. For each cell, it's just $3 million. It's $3 million. It's a maximum security. It keeps running while the redevelopment goes on. We're moving structures around and renovating some structures. I know it's hard to find a separate slot to rebuild it. So we redeveloped the facility on site. I found it disturbing when voting came because we cannot wait. I felt we had to vote. We were forced to vote, and I was very disturbed given the eye-watering cost. When we had much in our public coffers, we could agree to such proposals with reluctance, but we are in a public fiscal squeeze. We have a deficit every year. We are throwing money at things regardless of the cost. Sticking to this problematic approach will cause problems for us. We have many major development areas and infrastructure projects down the road. The government needs to change its mindset about spending money. Getting things done costs money, but we need to be thoughtful so that we can meet the requirements under the basic law, so that we spend within our means and make sure we use taxpayers' money properly.
Dr. Junius Ho, to follow up on what Dr. Wendy Ho said, we should use our money prudently, and we should review our processes in order to bring down construction costs. According to the sector, we've been a very frugal. From the top most expensive city, we have now gone to the 8th place, but we are still very high on the list. Now, if you go to see a doctor, you may say that my cholesterol, triglyceride are very high, but it has lessened a bit, but it's still high. So it is an indisputable fact that we are asking for things to be done at a reasonable cost with high quality and good efficiency. You may say that you've already tried, but I don't think you have tried your best. So what should we do? We should use our consultants. We should not be led by consultants. In the past 3 decades, in particular, in the past decade or so, I joined the council in 2016. I have been shouting out, why are we paying so much to consultants? How come? What about the commitment on the part of officials? Just last week, that 11.3 kilometer long road, I can't remember the name of the director. He said that he had sent email around the government departments, but no one could help. Not even one single official. Now, we're not even talking about building a 23 kilometer long road. We are just designing it, and we are spending $48,000 per kilometer in designing the road. Yes, we can commission consultants, but we must know how to use them properly. Well, in the mainland, they build express railways. They are only spending $200,000 per kilometer, and yet we are spending 20 times more. You may as well pave the railway with gold. Now, because they say that, we did not know that the geology was so hard, and we did not know that the bedrock was so soft, and the reason for the high cost. And here we did not know beforehand that the soil was in that condition, so we blame it on the geology. In fact, it is impossible that our geology can change every year. They talked as if our geotechnical conditions are the most complicated in the world, making construction so costly. Now, we should not be led by consultants. Now, you say that construction costs are high. Is it really much cheaper in Shenzhen, just across the Shenzhen River? Like the use of electric vehicles, They were okay when they were tried out in Shenzhen, and then 4 years back, they came to Hong Kong. They encountered problems because of the high humidity. Isn't it humid in Shenzhen as well? Hong Kong is hilly terrain. Isn't Shenzhen the same? How come the two cities are so different? Now, we must borrow the good experience of the mainland. But we shouldn't forget that Hong Kong is an advanced city. If we can draw on the advantages of both cities, that will be the best. It's not that we cannot commission consultants, but we should be careful. So for things that work in the mainland should work in Hong Kong. And when it's necessary, you have to expand the importation of labor scheme. You should not keep the quota at 1,200. Now, lastly, officials must have a commitment. They must be willing to bear responsibility. Thank you. Mr. Gary Zhang. I thank Mr. Lau Kwok-fan for moving the motion. This is the right time to discuss this issue. I have the feeling that there is consensus in the community that we have to address the problem, and there have also been proposals from different parties. So we all agree that it should be done, and we have all made suggestions on how. And other issue is how come it is so expensive in Hong Kong. Dr. Wendy Hong gave us some analysis. Sometimes the options were too expensive in the first place. Now, from a technical level, I'd like to share my thoughts with you. Now, for engineering, we mainly talk about manpower, equipment, and also the contract costs. Manpower cost in Hong Kong is relatively more expensive than other places. This is already a known factor. And there is also the excessive approval process and construction standards. Sometimes we are excessive, and in the process is also the attitude of the approving officers, whether they will just consider the broad principles or look at each and every detail. Dr. Wendy Hong has discussed with professionals. I myself have also talked to peers in the sector. Now, my impression is we all know that things are expensive. We all want it to be changed. Why is it so expensive? Nobody really knows the real reason. We are involved in a major project in only a small part of the work. We may say that a particular process has room for improvement. There is no one to see the whole picture. We only know that the final cost is 4 or 5 times that of Shenzhen, or some percentage higher than other cities. We have the lump sum, but we should have a breakdown on the costs of the reasons for the high labor costs and the reason for the high construction costs. There are still many things unknown. If we do not grasp the reasons behind the high construction costs, we don't know how to address the problem. So the crux of the matter lies in knowing where the real problems are. We should have a detailed comparison of similar projects, whether they are done by the government or by the private sector, and then we can find out how come it took us 12 years and only 5 years in other places. What were the processes skipped and whether they were necessary? We need to have a scientific analysis before we know how resources should be deployed to address the problems. that needs to be done, and who should do it. If we leave it to government departments, there are bound to be difficulties. If we commission another consultancy, there may be conflict of interest. So we really need independence and people who are very conversant with what's happening in the trade, so that we can have information for a very detailed comparison of similar projects, so that we can identify what the real problems are. Lastly, I believe there is plenty of room for improvement in our public works projects, but for some, there are reasons for the high cost. For instance, we don't want Hong Kong to employ cheap labor, and we know the reason why for the high cost in this aspect, and we are concerned about the environment. We want to achieve green repair and maintenance. Now, in some places, they may just close the road for a few years for a certain project. In Hong Kong, we have to divert the roads. All these demands and aspirations have jacked up costs, and we know about them, and we're willing to pay for these. Thank you. Mr. Chen Hanpan. I speak in support of Mr. LAU Kwok-fan's original motion. This is a very timely motion, whether we're talking about public or private projects. In recent years, people have come across are saying to me that we really can't compare with other places in construction projects. Many colleagues like to say that things can be done quickly and well in the mainland. In Hong Kong, we move too slowly. Sometimes it's because of the slow approval process. As a result, many people are deterred. The approval process may involve a number of applications. As soon as you submit an application to the government, they claim that there is one-stop service. Now, if government departments are willing to discuss the case to come to an answer, that's excellent. The problem is the consultation is done by circulation of papers. They have to wait for departments to come back to say whether there are issues. Sometimes the issues are not really major ones. Sometimes approval can be granted but not done. They may ask you to spend a few $100,000 on traffic impact assessment. They may ask you to do a drainage impact assessment. So you have to employ a consultant to compile a report for submission to the government, which will again take a few months to read the report, and so that is already a year lost. So the highest opportunity cost in Hong Kong is time. No one can tell when a project can be completed. It can be stalled for a few years. I have received complaints about building an elderly home. The complainant told me that the case had been pending with the government for a few years with no progress. So very often it's about streamlining the processes within the government. Besides, our departments are highly fragmented. Individual departments come for an inspection at different times. A department may tell you that, well, there is a minor issue to be addressed. I'll come back in 3 months' time, all right? After 3 months, the department come back saying that the initial problem is okay, but then there is another minor issue. All these steps are costing us time and money. You need professionals to receive these officials. They are all fidgeting as to whether they have to handle new issues. So it all depends on whether government officials are there to help the community to address and resolve problems, or is it their duty to find fault and to ensure that they have not made mistakes? Some government officials may think that, well, this is a commercial project. Why should I help you to make money? Government departments should take this attitude. They should facilitate the community or members of the public to make money after projects are approved. So that involves a change in the mindset of our officials. We have observed a vicious cycle in recent years, and that is granting the project to the lowest bid. Does that mean that the government can for sure save money? Well, the project price may be low, but the contractor may not have the capacity. Under the two-envelope system, you can say that a certain contractor is technically capable, but then for the other envelope, the price envelope, it is too low. In fact, but you still grant a project to a certain contractor, knowing full well that with the resources available and capability for this contractor, the project cannot be done. So there may result in project delay. You may have to claim the contractor for your loss, etc. So the whole project is counterproductive. Now, if we're willing to get rid of this idea of awarding contract to a lowest bid, we may be able to save cost and time eventually. Thank you.
Mr. Peter Xu, thank you, Deputy President. I thank Mr. Edward Lau for raising this motion about reviewing the works approval process and aligning construction standards and leveraging technologies to reduce construction costs and time. Hong Kong is known for its long construction time and high construction costs for large-scale projects. This year, in the Legislative Council, we have passed a bill to streamline development procedures, and this will help save construction time. And the bill has gained the support of most members of the Council. Normally, in large-scale construction projects, we need professionals, we need construction workers, and we need money. All these have to do with construction costs. To engage professionals, it is to ensure that the safety of the projects comply with the standards. Can we adjust the construction costs? I talked to one of the members just now, and he told me that for a small park built by the government has to engage consultants to do preliminary investigation work, and it costs maybe about $10 million. Can the government engage in-house staff to do the consultancy work? Do you have to outsource it? These are public works that we're talking about. It's not private works. Public housing accounts for a high percentage of our housing. For private residential projects, of course, it is the private sector that's responsible for them. For public housing, sometimes you outsource the work to contractors, and contractors make a profit from these projects to save construction costs. Have you thought about engaging your own staff to build the projects to control cost? We're not talking about a small amount here. According to Mr. Edward Lau, in the coming 10 years, well, the construction expenditure forecast will range from $240 to $375 billion per annum. These large-scale projects put huge financial pressure on us. Another point is about manpower. According to Edward Lau's motion, he proposed using innovative construction technologies, for instance, AI or automated procedures, to save manpower. And hopefully, by saving manpower, we can lower the cost. Like the housing authority, you can pay attention to their fiscal position in the coming years. They will adopt prefabricated components to build residential projects. For these kind of prefabricated modules, if they are used, can we save construction costs? It looks like that's not the case. Well, Mr. Junius Ho has mentioned a number of times that there are cheaper modules that you can procure in other places outside of Hong Kong. We're very close to the mainland, and you can easily learn from their model. Their construction costs are much lower than ours. What are the reasons behind? As for the point about manpower, apart from using technologies, well, indeed, you need manpower to deploy technologies as well. We are facing a manpower shortage in Hong Kong. Construction industry is one of the sectors that faces manpower shortage. You should think of ways to import labor for government projects. Do you have to stick to the median wage level for imported labor? Say it may just cost you $2,000 to $3,000 a month to hire a Malaysian worker. For local construction worker, each day it costs about $2,000 for their income, so it's very expensive. Does any other members wish to speak? If not, Mr. Edward Lau, you may now speak on the amendments. Thank you, Deputy President. I thank Dr. Lo Wai-kwok, Mr. Kingsley Wong, and Mr. Louis Long for their amendments to enrich the content of my original motion. I propose this motion because I think the government should develop e-government services, and in the amendments it is mentioned that all these can help streamline approval procedures. This is consistent with my original motion, especially point 6 about introducing innovative construction technologies. In fact, the government as well as the industry have widely adopted BIM, building information modeling, as well as digitalization. However, this is restricted to submitting application only. For instance, BIM information is just used as an supplementary information, and for the last step of the approval procedure, hard copies of building plans are used. If the entire industry can more widely adopt BIM, including the government departments, I believe it can really streamline procedures. This will also ensure safety and compliance. I think currently it is the contractors that have been adopting BIM the most, so I think the government should work harder to catch up with the use of BIM, and also it should develop e-government services. According to statistics from 2023, I think we should have the roadmap to comprehensively adopt BIM. Mr. Kingsley Wong mentioned that we have to protect the lives of workers to reduce the occurrence of serious industrial accidents, as well as to prevent suspension of works due to serious accidents. 2 days ago, an industrial accident in Kai Tak took the lives of 2 workers, and this is very heartbreaking. The government should, perhaps through subsidies or through other means of assistance, to ensure site safety. Apart from using technologies, well, indeed, technologies can reduce risks. Say, in cut and bend procedures, and through work automation, we can use technologies in high-risk procedures to protect lives of workers. Mr. Louis Long, in his amendment, came up with some suggestions as well. I understand members have different views on his amendment. In my original motion, I only lightly touched on the use of materials and manpower by the government. Mr. Leung mentioned about labor importation scheme relaxation. However, we can explore other means. For instance, we can look at what kind of positions we can rely on imported labor. Some imported labor may only stay in Hong Kong for a few months to take part in a project and then they leave. Ideally, if the imported labor can work for a company, that would be best. Whether we should stick to the median wage level or not, we can further explore it. There will be lots of construction projects in the pipeline. We'll be faced with many challenges. The government should ensure that it monitors the progress of the projects, and at the same time it should play the role as a facilitator. I think there should be a top-down approach to improve the culture. We should strive to save 10% of the construction cost, and that would help save over $10 billion for Hong Kong. Our target is to save 30% of construction costs. That means every year we'll be able to save $30 billion. I hope all of you will support my motion. Thank you.
Secretary for Development. Deputy President, I thank the 22 members who spoke on this motion. Members' ideas will help us with policy making and devising measures to streamline the administrative processes. And now give some preliminary replies. The motion mentions reviewing the buildings ordinance. This is different from the town planning ordinance or the land resumption ordinance. For those ordinances, there's a mechanism to handle public objections. The buildings ordinance does not deal with public objections. In contrast, the buildings ordinance focuses on building safety and also approval standards. That's why last year the buildings ordinance was not part of that omnibus bill to streamline statutory procedures. The policy address last year proposed reviewing the buildings ordinance and possible amendments. The focus on this front is about breaching the rules about the mandatory building inspection scheme, window inspection scheme, and removal of unauthorized building works, and also penalties for contractors. So the focus here is on building safety and public safety. We do agree that for the buildings department, there is room for streamlining the approval of building plans. But these procedures are not statutory procedures. Instead, this has to do with the administrative procedures under the buildings department and other departments. Many members have brought up the many departments involved in approving building plans because this step has to do with the progress of private development works. The recent moves include, in March last year, the buildings department set up dedicated processing units. These units adopt a facilitator's mindset and target private developments with 500 or more units. There is proactive follow-up and reach out and outreach. These units help the applicant find alternatives to meet the buildings ordinance, and that's how they speed up the processing and approval of plans. There are key performance indicators. As long as the application does not involve major land or fire safety issues, 80% of the applications can be approved on the first or second submission. Last year, the buildings department also further streamlined the approval requirements for general building plans. This means slashing the information items required under GBPs during application. This saves time and resources for applicants, so the applicants get a preliminary approval earlier and move on to the next stage. On dedicated functions for dedicated officers, this is not unique to the buildings department. Under our bureau, our team also embraces this approach, and we put it to practice where applicable. Towards the end of 2020, the Development Bureau set up the Development Projects Facilitation Office. This office adopted a project-based approach to coordinate work to speed up the approval of development projects in the private sector. This has worked well since the office's inception. More than 70 projects have secured approval at various stages under the assistance of this office. These projects yield over 100,000 flats. This office is well received, so we expanded this office's functions. This office now also looks at the approval of large-scale commercial development. And for more than 80 cases involving brownfield site operators, this office provides information. The Lands Department also set up 2 dedicated task forces to deal with applications under lease. The motion mentions streamlining administrative procedures and also allowing professionals to perform self-certification in place of administrative approval. The motion also calls for clearer timelines and guidelines. That is in line with our objectives too. Members stress that apart from the procedure, we also need a change in the culture surrounding approval. That's why we're trying to institutionalize this push for a cultural change. We're working on a guideline applicable not just to the Development Bureau and the departments under our bureau, but also to all departments working on projects. This includes the Transport Department and the Fire Services Department. We want to achieve this with the guideline. We want to make it clear, empower and require departments to adopt a facilitator's mindset in processing applications. The guideline will also require departments to review the items under the approval. Are these items something that warrants approval? Is it possible to leave it to professionals for self-certification? In the approval, departments will be asked to set out clear timelines. In cases of refusal or rejection, the department has to state clearly the reasons and also state ways to make changes so that the application can be approved. These are important changes in the approval culture. Once we institutionalize this cultural change, we will also need to keep monitoring how the guideline works. Our goal is to announce the guideline as soon as we can within this year. We will also lead departments to explore new measures to be proactive. This means in low-risk projects, for example, the superstructure is of a low-risk nature. We can make greater use of self-certification by professionals. We will also actively talk to the construction sector for ways to streamline procedures. The more specific their proposals are, the better they can help us streamline procedures. The Buildings Department is working on an electronic submission hub. In 2022 and 23, Phase 1 and Phase 2 kicked in. It now covers 17 bodies or departments. Phase 3 is supposed to be completed in Q3 2025. We will bring that forward to Q2 this year. to launch some of the main functions under Phase 3 so that we can accept all building plans under the electronic submission hub. As some members point out, the ESH can encourage wider use of Building Information Modeling, or BIM. This covers submission and approval of building plans. In late 2023, we announced a roadmap on the use of BIM in submitting building plans. It also covers the support that industry needs. We will listen to views from this sector. We want to start with the government and statutory bodies and gradually expand the scheme to private bodies so that by 2029, BIM will be adopted everywhere for designing, submitting, and approving building plans. On contract management, contracts usually focus on obligations. When something goes wrong, disputes arise. That's why, under the Development Bureau's project, we bring in new engineering contract. This means a greater emphasis on mutual trust, co-management of risks to minimize dispute and reduce claims. This can also reduce the risks of cost overruns and delays. From 2009, more than 500 public works contracts have adopted new engineering contract. More than 90 such contracts have been completed. The final accounts have been settled. None of these 90 contracts has seen contractual dispute, so we think the NEC is working well. More and more public works contracts are adopting NECs. For major works starting from 2023, all contracts adopt the NEC model. I mentioned in my opening remarks that our construction costs have actually led to our rank to 4 in the global construction cost index. We are achieving results. We will not be complacent, but we should not belittle ourselves either. As we achieve results, we should also be mindful that our construction costs remain high. The Development Bureau is working on a strategic study. We're trying to find out the main reason behind the high construction costs and also review our approach in consultancies and tendering. We want to be thorough, find the cause, learn from the success stories in the mainland and overseas, adopt strategic measures to lower construction costs. We're in a dilemma. Some members wonder why we engage consultants all the time. Why not do it in-house? We're worried that doing everything in-house may lead to a larger civil service establishment. We call these consultant studies. In fact, consultancy studies often involve visits to construction sites and investigations. All that work will take resources, money, and manpower. Since we are doing a review anyway, so we will take a look at that. Other members propose centralized or direct procurement so that we don't have each contractor doing their own procurement. We are actively looking into this idea too. There will be a subcommittee at LegCo looking at project cost. We will share findings of our study and deliverables as soon as we can. Apart from project management, we also care deeply about the challenges in the construction sector: aging workers, falling productivity, high construction costs. As members have pointed out, we're promoting the use of efficient construction methods, modular integrated construction, multi-trade integrated mechanical and electrical plumbing approach to boost efficiency and lower costs. We're driving digitalization of constructions, such as a digital approach to monitor works, smart and safe site systems, building information modeling. To encourage the adoption of technologies, we adopt a multi-pronged approach. We provide funding under the Construction Innovation and Technology Fund. We also set up an interdepartmental steering group. Take the MIC as an example. We provide GFA concession. The Buildings Department has also set up an advanced recognition system. For MICs and modules, we provide advanced recognition and acceptance so that the sector can feel comfortable about going ahead with procurement. Once everything is in line and in order, the Buildings Department issues agreement in principle within 40 days. In construction works, we encourage the use of R&D outcomes. That's why we set up a dedicated task force under the Development Bureau. One member argued that compressing the construction time frame should not compromise site safety. I believe many will agree. We will work harder to enhance site safety through technology. The Development Bureau has adopted smart and safe site systems in our own project. We also provide funding for the sector. The Construction Industry Council has stepped up promotion. The CIC reaches out to small and medium contractors to help them adopt these systems. We are working with the CIC to launch more measures to urge the sector to adopt smart systems. On manpower, to meet the construction sector's need, we adopt a multi-pronged approach. There is labor import schemes. We also train local workers. We try to attract more people to join the sector and make greater use of technology. The labor importation scheme for the construction sector covers public works projects only. But in special cases, when there's limited local manpower, we also allow the private sector to import workers. Priority goes to public works projects in labor import schemes. Once we ease the labor crunch in public works projects, that will free up manpower for the private sector project. The quota stands at 12,000 workers now. Before the labor import scheme, we already had external imported workers. That adds up to 7,000 workers in total. We cannot rely on imported workers alone to fix all our problems. We will review the implementation of the import scheme when appropriate by taking on board some of members' ideas. A member questioned whether it's right for the government to keep throwing money at all issues. The member argued some projects involving relocating facilities to caverns and public housing projects may be a waste of resources. But let's look at the historical context. We have a shortage of public housing. We need to catch up. The government needs to have the courage to go ahead. Some sites may not be the cheapest option. Those may not be the easiest place to build housing, but we have to go ahead. On the use of caverns, this idea received support from the community. We're not just trying to make use of the space inside caverns. The reason also has to do with moving obnoxious facilities into caverns, and this will bring social benefits to residents nearby. So I encourage members to take a holistic view of our project. Investment in infrastructure can drive the economy, create jobs, and improve people's quality of lives, and enhance our long-term competitiveness, and foster sustainable development. We will continue to take forward quality infrastructure projects. In this process, we will explore and implement ways to build faster and more efficiently. This will mean bringing down costs and also boosting efficiency, so that the government and the construction sector can free up resources to deal with the large volume of works projects. Members have shared their insights. My team and I will consider these insights and put the good ideas into practice. I thank members. Thank you, President.
I now call upon Dr. LO Wai-kwok to move an amendment. President, I move my amendment. I propose the question to you that Dr. LO Wai-kwok's amendment be passed. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the amendment passed. Mr. Kingsley, once the preceding amendment is passed, you may move your further amendment. President, I move my further amendment. I propose the question to you that Mr. Kingsley Wong's further amendment be passed. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the amendment passed. Mr. Louis Long, as the preceding amendments are passed, you may move your further amendment. President, I move my further amendment. I propose the question to you that Mr. Louis Long's further amendment be passed. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Mr. Dennis Leung claims a division. The division bell will ring for 5 minutes. Will members please proceed to vote? Members, please check their votes. If there are no queries, voting shall now stop and the result will be displayed. Members returned by the Election Committee: 35 present, 32 in favor, 3 against, 0 abstention. Members returned by functional constituencies and geographical constituencies: 43 present, 35 in favor, 6 against, 1 abstention. I declare the amendment passed. I now put the question to you that Mr. Edward Lau's motion as amended by Dr. LO Wai-kwok, Mr. Kingsley Wong, and Mr. Louis Loong be passed. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the motion as amended passed. I now adjourn the meeting until 11 a.m. on the 28th of February.